Hello students, welcome to my channel again. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about optical pumping and electric discharge pumping and as well as the active medium. We know that there are three main components of a laser, and first of them is pump actually. The device is pump and mechanism is called pumping. The second one is active medium and the third one is optical resonator. The first two have already been discussed in my previous lecture, and today we are going to discuss the third one, and which is a very vital component of the laser, which is called optical resonator. So the definition of the optical resonator is very simple. It contains actually two mirrors. These mirrors can be plane or concave. These cannot be convex, that you will see during the working of the optical resonator. So for illustration purpose, I will take both of the mirrors to be plane mirrors, because my target audience in this lecture will again be restricted to the students of engineering colleges rather than pure science students. So I will take these mirrors to be plane mirrors. So suppose this is one plane mirror. This shaded side is the rough face of the plane mirror, and unshaded side is the plane face or the reflecting face of the mirror. And similarly, this is another mirror. Okay, so these two plane mirrors I have placed. They must have common principal axis, means these are placed coaxially. So this is the principal axis. PA stands for principal axis of both of the mirrors. So one of these mirrors is partially reflecting. PR stands for partially reflecting, and the other mirror is totally reflecting. TR stands for totally reflecting. So I will be using these abbreviations. So this is in principle, this is the simple construction of an optical resonator, and you can give its definition from this construction that optical resonator contains two plane or concave mirrors which are placed coaxially so that their reflecting faces face each other, and one of the mirror is totally reflecting, means its reflectance is 1, transmittance is 0, absorbance we will assume in this case that none of these mirrors absorbs any light, so I will assume absorbance to be also 0. Rather, I will not write here on the board. I will deal with only two terms, reflectance and transmittance. The third one is according to assumption A, that is absorbance, that is 0. No mirror is absorbing any light. This is my assumption. I am discussing the ideal case. Now, this mirror, its reflectance is usually very small. Transmittance is very high. Let me take its reflectance to be 1 by 100. Since A is 0, therefore transmittance will be 99 by 100. This is just an example. These values, this is actually, we must write actually this to be very low, this to be very high, and these values that I have written here are just examples for demo purpose only, for better understanding only. Okay, so the space between these two mirrors which is there, it is called optical cavity. So this is our optical cavity. So optical cavity is actually the space between the two mirrors of an optical resonator. What we do, we will place the lasing medium. I will show this lasing medium with the help of a rectangle. We will place the laser medium or lasing medium in the optical cavity. So this is the lasing medium. It is placed in the optical cavity, and you know that in a laser medium there are two different kind of medium. One is the supporting medium and other is the active medium. So what I am going to use, I will be using certain term here, that I will put some dots here. Okay, what are these dots? I will write here the description. These dots are actually active centers. So what are the active centers? Active centers are actually those atoms or molecules or ions which at a given instant of time, these are in the upper Lissing level. Active centers are in the upper Lissing level. And when these will de-excite to the lower Lissing level, then the lasing action will start. Now look, in this laser medium I have shown certain dots. I have not shown anything in between. Kindly do not make any assumption from your side. It does not mean that there are no atoms in the spaces where I have not shown any dots. It actually means there may be atoms or molecules or ions in that space. However, these are just supporting the process. These are not in the upper Lissing level. These are actually just supporting medium. And at the given instant of time, at the time when this discussion is being taking place, so if there are any atoms or molecules available within this empty region which is visible in the diagram, which may not actually be the case. So those atoms are not in the upper Lissing level. These are actually inactive at that instant of time. Okay, just for better understanding, I will take another example of 3-level laser. I assume that this is just with one metastable state. It is just for the sake of better understanding. So this is ground level, this is excited level, this is upper Lissing level, which is going to be a metastable state. And the atoms are being excited from ground level to excited level with the help of external energy, which I am showing with this double arrow. So this external energy supply is a process which is called pumping. So I do not need this title of the article right now. So in order to properly utilize the space on the board, I would show this double arrow here. This double arrow tells me that these active centers are due to this, which is the external energy supply. By pump. Or rather, instead of writing this big sentence, you can simply say that this double arrow is representing an important process which we have already discussed, and this process is called pumping. So all these dots, which are the active centers, are actually active centers because of this. If I just stop this process, that is supply of external energy is stopped, then all these atoms will come back to their ground level, because they cannot stay here for a large time, and ultimately the active centers will become zero and the laser action will stop. So the time for which you want the laser action to start, to take place, for that full time you have to keep this pumping on. Is it okay? So kindly remember this. Next is that this is a normal excited state. So usually the lifetime of this is of the order of 10 raised to power minus 8 seconds. I will again take the example that within this 10 raised to power minus 8 seconds, so this energy supply can excite only 100 atoms. So in the first cycle there will be 100 atoms. In the second cycle there should be actually 200 atoms, but out of these 200 atoms, 100 will remain here and 100 will come here because of their spontaneous or non-radiative decay. Why? Because the time already has been lapsed to be 10 raised to power minus 8 seconds. Now the electrons which come here can manage to stay here for a longer time because this is a metal state and its lifetime is of the order of 10 raised to power minus 3 seconds. When the pump will repeat third cycle, then actually the pump might have will have excited 300 atoms, out of which 100 will be here and 200 will be here. After let us say 10 cycles, since pump is exciting 100 atoms in every second, therefore after 10 cycles the pump will have excited actually 1000 atoms. Out of these 1000 atoms, 100 will be here and 900 will be here. Kindly remember the number of atoms are accumulating here. This is not decreasing, but the number of atoms are decreasing here. It's just because of the reason that this time is different. So up to how much time the atoms can manage to stay here? For that, in my previous lecture also I found the ratio. So this ratio will be approximately equal to 10 raised to power 5. So since one cycle time of pump I have assumed to be the lifetime of the excited state 10 raised to power minus 8. Therefore total cycles will be 10 raised to power 5, and in this time 10 raised to power 5 cycles, the time elapsed will be, I would write here rather for total cycles 10 raised to power 5, the time elapsed will be 10 raised to power 5 into 10 raised to power minus 8, that is 10 raised to power minus 3, and this exactly matches with the lifetime of this. So it means the electrons which are coming here will not start de-exciting from this level to this level until this pump has repeated 1 lakh or 10 raised to power 5 cycles, and when it will happen, then the total number of atoms that the pump will have excited will be 100 into 10 raised to power 5, that will be 10 raised to power 7. Out of these, again 100 will be here and all remaining will be here. Now kindly remember, when all these atoms which will come are coming here, these are not coming here at same instant of time. So the first bundle of 100 atoms will have time equal to 10 raised to power minus 3 seconds, and remaining will still manage to stay here. So it means after 10 raised to power 5 cycles, only the first 100 atoms which came here, they will decay. And when these 100 atoms will decay, these will decay after spending their full life in the metastable state. Therefore, their decay will be a random decay, and whenever this decay is random, I must show this decay with the help of an oblique arrow, and a photon will be emitted. The energy of photon, suppose this energy is E1, this energy is E2, and this energy is E2 dash. So the energy of the emitted photon will be equal to let me assume that this photon is emitted in this direction. It can be emitted in any direction. I would rather just say it, rather I will endorse it with my discussion later on within a few minutes. So let us say this photon is emitted in this direction, and when it is emitted in this direction, then since this photon is emitted naturally, so such a photon is called seed photon. So actually there will be 100 atoms, and since all these 100 atoms have de-excited automatically after spending their full time in the level E2 dash or UL level, therefore these 100 photons, out of these we can not call every photon to be a seed photon. Kindly remember that out of these, only one photon will act as a seed photon. That which photon is going to act as a seed photon, I will tell later on. But all these photons will have exactly same energy. That should be E2 dash minus E1. Their directions will be different. Their energy will be same. Their frequency will be same. And what is going to happen? Let us see. So I am saying that only this photon which is emitted by chance parallel to principal axis. Kindly remember, a lot of photons. 100 is just an example. 100 is just an example that I am taking, but actually the number is very high. So out of these 100 photons which are emitted randomly in all possible directions, only one photon which is emitted per chance parallel to principal axis. Since the photons are emitted in random directions, so out of all these random directions, one of the photon by chance according to probability can be emitted parallel to principal axis. I will discuss this photon which is parallel to principal axis later on, because I have said that only this photon will act as a seed photon. What will happen to these photons which are not emitted parallel to principal axis? Let us discuss that first of all. Suppose this is one of the photon, this is the atom which has spent 10 raised to power minus 3 seconds. Therefore, this atom will de-excite after 10 raised to power minus 3 seconds, and it will emit a photon. The energy of that photon will be E2 dash minus E1. This photon is not emitted parallel to principal axis. So as soon as this photon will be emitted, this atom, of course the atom will remain there, but since it has lost its energy, so I must remove this dot, because dot represents an atom in the upper Lagrange level, and whenever I remove a dot, or if I do not show a dot, it means there the atom may or may be present, but that is in the ground level, which is not excited level. Now this photon is emitted, and by chance it is not emitted parallel to principal axis. Rather, the chances of such instances are very large. Now this photon is traveling within the medium, and as it is traveling within the medium, its path let me show this mirror slightly bigger. Its path, if I am showing it like to be this. Now see, this photon while traveling through the lasing medium may collide with this atom. Now this atom is still in the, because I have shown it by dot, it is still in the upper lasing level, and it can manage to stay there for some more time. But because of the photon colliding on it from behind, this photon is actually a spontaneously emitted photon. So when it will strike here, then what will happen? This atom will be de-excited forcefully, and this atom will therefore come back to the ground level. As soon as it will come back to the ground level, I must remove the dot here, because the active center atom is still there, but that atom is not active now. So therefore the active center has disappeared. As a result, a photon will be emitted, and because of the collision, the law of conservation of linear momentum will take place, and the emitted photon from this active center will travel in the direction of the incident photon. Therefore, the number of photons will become 2. It will multiply. So when kindly remember, out of these 2 photons, the second photon is stimulated photon because it is emitted forcefully due to collision, and the first photon is a spontaneous photon. So what is going to happen? The number of photons 2 will become 4, like a GP series. It is just an intuitive, very intuitive or introductory explanation that I am giving. However, for first year engineering students, it is suitable. It may not be appropriate for pure science students, because they deal with much complex quantities. There are very good books related with the lasers. I have already given the name of one of the book in my previous lecture, and that was by Laser Fundamentals by William T. Silvast. I will again recommend to the pure science students that they must actually refer to that book if they want to study the full knowledge of the lasers. And Ajoy K. Ghatak, that is an Indian author, this book is also a very good book. Okay, the number of photons will become increasingly very high, and when these photons will strike on this mirror, kindly remember, if I draw a principal axis here at the point of incidence, then this angle is not 0 degree, and according to law of reflection, when this huge number of photons will strike on this mirror, after reflection it will go at equal angle, and when it will go at an equal angle it will suffer reflection. Then because the angle of incidence is not 0 degree, therefore this beam of photons which was produced, it was this was produced and it was amplified also, because the number of photons is increasing, the intensity increased also, but the increase in intensity could not sustain for so much time, and as a result this beam got lost. So therefore any number of photons which is produced by this initial spontaneously emitted photon which is not parallel to principal axis, all these photons will eventually get wasted. It will be adding to the wastage of energy. But however, what is going to happen during the stage, now I can erase this part, during the stage this amplification was taking place, what it did to the medium, it actually removed a lot of active centers from the medium, because these active centers were forcefully made to de-excite by the initially spontaneously emitted photon. But I would just say it is a good thing that we have kept the pump on and the pumping is still there. So what the pumping will do, the atoms which have de-excited, they will remain there for more time, but those atoms which were not excited by the pump during this stage, the pumping energy will bring some more atoms into the E level, which will eventually come to UL through non-radiative transition. So therefore the loss of these active centers, because the pumping is continuously switched on, will be compensated. But kindly remember that do not put the dots exactly at the same places from where these dots disappear, because it is not necessary that the active center which is just wasted will become active center by the pump. It may be some other atom which may become active center, and therefore the actually active centers continuously are changing, or you can say the recycling is taking place of active centers at a given instant of time. Certain atoms of same type, kindly remember this, all atoms are of same type. I have already given you the examples. Let us say if it is a ruby laser, then all these are actually the chromium 3 ions. So let us say there are 70 chromium ions right now in the M state, and 30 are in the chromium ions are in the G state. Kindly remember both the atoms, no atoms, so Cl3 plus ions, let us say 30 are in the ground level and 70 are in the M level. Both of these are the same. So at a given instant of time, 70 chromium ions are active centers, remaining 30 are not active centers. However, at a later stage, it may be possible that there may be 20, there may be 80 above, and therefore 80 chromium ions will be active centers and 20 will be non-active centers, and these active centers will continue to recycle with the time because of the fact that pumping is on. Okay, now this was the discussion with one of the seed photon. Let us say it was far photon of this nature. Now what is going to happen? So similar things will happen with all those photons, like this one, this one, this one, and this one, which are not emitted parallel to principal axis. What will happen? All these spontaneously emitted photon, they will start the amplification process for certain interval of time, but these photons will not be able to sustain that process, and the process will vanish. It will stop after certain interval of time, and whatever photons are lost, that will be added to the wastage of energy. However, because the pump is switched on, the number of active centers in the medium will be maintained by the pump, so the atoms will continue to just recycle. Now, all such photons which are not emitted parallel to principal axis, their story is same. So therefore, I can say that I need not to discuss any more spontaneously emitted photon, whatever angle it is, except the parallel to principal axis. Now, last photon, this one, which is also emitted parallel to principal, it's perchance, because photons are being emitted in any direction. Therefore, all directions included a direction parallel to principal axis. So perchance, let us say this atom, perchance emits a photon parallel to principal axis. So what is going to happen? This will strike with this, it will become 2. Now both of them will have same direction, same energy, that is E2 dash minus E1, and these will be coherent. And this will be actually 2 will become 4, 4 will become 8, and so on. Let us say when this process is actually amplification is taking place, all these photons, when these will come out of the medium, these will strike on the mirror, let us say. And whenever these will strike mirror, since the initial photon was parallel to principal axis, so all these photons which are as a result of collision between the photon and the active centers, these will be parallel to the principal axis. Let me assume that at the time when this beam, which was increasing, let us say when it strikes the mirror, the number of photons increased from 1 to 100. It is just again an example. 100 is a very simple or small simple number to just remember. That is why I most of the times take this example 100. If you are listening or attending my lectures consistently, you will see it is my habit to just stick to this number 100. Okay, I take that 100 photons strike here. Now I have taken, just for better understanding, an example. The reflectance is 1 by 100. So it means if 100 photons strike here, out of these 100 photons, sorry, I have shown these photons by a straight line. Actually, these should be shown by wavy arrows. So therefore, out of these 100 photons which strike the mirror, 99 photons will come out of the mirror, because the transmittance is 99 by 100, and only one photon will be reflected back. And when this one photon will be reflected back, it will again, on entering the material, it will again start multiplying. Kindly remember, when these photons were traveling in this direction, then certain active centers will be lost. But because of the fact that pumping is not switched off, so therefore the active centers will be again recycled, and the loss of active centers will be filled by the pump. So therefore there will be no actually shortage of the active centers. In the meantime, when the photon will enter, this reflected photon will enter back in the active medium, then the process will again start multiplying. Let us say now, when these start here, strike here, let us say 100, it was 1 here, let us say 100 strike here. Now all these will have angle of incidence 0 degree, because all these photons are traveling, striking on this mirror at 90 degree or normal to the mirror. However, this mirror is totally reflecting mirror, its reflectance is 1. So no photon can come out of this mirror. In the meantime, some active centers which have been lost will be again recycled by the pump. So all these photons will be reflected back, and angle of incidence for each of these photons will be 0 degree. And when these 100 photons will reflect back, these will come here, and these will again start multiplying. So 100 because in the previous just few minutes earlier I said when a photon will start here, from here it on the process of going from one to first end to second end, it got multiplied by a factor of 100. If I take that in every cycle uniform let us say multiplication is taking place, so 1 is multiplied by 100, one photon leads to 100 due to collisions, and when 100 is are entering, so these will become 100 into 100, 10,000, and when these will be 10,000, what is going to happen? The reflectance is 1 by 100, so out of 10,000, if I divide it by 100, then 100 will be reflected back. So now 100 photons will be reflected back, and the second supply of the photons that will come out of the partially 100 photons. Kindly remember, first supply was of 99 photons, second supply is of 9900 photons. So you can see that the amplification of the light is taking place because the number of photons coming out of the partially refracting mirror in the second cycle are more than that of number of photons in the first cycle. So when these 100 photons will enter, in the meantime pumping will have again recycled the active centers, so do not worry about active centers, these will be recycled, and as a result when 100 will enter here, these will become 10,000 when these will strike here, but this mirror is again totally reflecting, so no transmission can take place from here, so all these 10,000 will be reflected back, and during the time pumping will again recycle the active centers, and when these 10,000 will enter here, and it will be again multiplied by a factor of 100. Therefore, in the third supply, the number of atoms that will come out will be 10 raised to power 6. Sorry, the number of photons that will strike here will be 10 raised to power 6. That is 1 million, and out of these 1 million, 10,000 will be reflected back, and all remaining will come out, and their number will be 99 and 4 zeros. So now it is very clear that as the time passes, with every output that comes out of the partially reflecting mirror, the number of photons are increasing, and therefore you can see that the intensity of the light, which is directly proportional to the number of photons present in the beam, is increasing. So kindly remember, there are two definitions of intensity. One, it is actually the intensity emitted by the source. So one, it is the amount of energy emitted per second per unit area. This is according to wave optics. Second is we can say it is the total number of photons which are emitted per second per unit area from a given source. Both of these definitions are equivalent, and the only difference is that one comes from because of the wave nature of light, and the another, in which the number of photons are just stated, it comes because of the ray nature of or particle nature of light. So we see that the intensity is increasing. Therefore, if I draw a graph between the amount of intensity of the light that is coming from the partially reflecting mirror, let us say this symbol is I, and versus T, then what will happen? Initially no photon was emitted. In the first cycle, the number of photons emitted were 99, then it was 99 and with 2 zeros, then it was 99 with 4 zeros, then it will be 99 with 6 zeros, and so on. So if one think, if I draw a graph, the graph will be exponential, it will not be a linear graph. If we say that every time this is going to happen, therefore this graph will never stop here, but actually it is going to stop here somewhere. So what is going to happen? After a certain interval of time, this graph will become horizontal. This graph will become horizontal, and when this graph becomes horizontal, we will say the intensity of the laser light has reached its peak value, and that peak value will be called as I naught. this is I naught, and the time that it takes for the intensity to increase from 0 to peak value is called switching time, or transient time, because during this stage the intensity of the light is transient, and this time is very small. It is just very small, even less than the millisecond range. Now the question comes, why this graph becomes horizontal after a certain interval of time? The answer is very simple, because the number of active centers in this material depend upon two things. Number one, what is the size or volume or mass of the substance. Number two, what is the capacity of the pump, or how much energy per unit time, per unit volume is incident on the laser material. And both of these things are finite, so a stage will be reached when the maximum number of active centers which can give the laser light will be participating in the lasing action, and beyond that stage you cannot expect the intensity of the light to increase. So therefore this graph becomes saturated after certain interval of time. So this is how an optical resonator works. Kindly remember, the optical resonator is also called optical amplifier, just because of very simple reason, because it amplifies the light. So if somebody asks you what are the major roles played by the very important component of the laser, which is called optical fiber amplifier or optical resonator, then one of the role that we have seen that it decides the direction in which the light will come out, and that direction is principal axis. Light will come out only through the partially reflecting mirror, and the direction of the light that will come out of the laser will always be parallel to the principal axis. So the direction of the light is decided by the optical resonator, and this direction is actually the direction parallel to principal axis, and the output face is actually the partially reflecting mirror. Next, second thing is that what is the second role that the optical amplifier or optical resonator does? It does the optical amplification. That is, it amplifies light. Now, the two things have been discussed, that these things are on the front line actually, and these are very much visible from whatever I have just stated in this lecture, that the light, direction of the light is decided by optical resonator, and amplification of the light is done by the optical resonator. But one important thing that may come in the mind of a person is that if it is not doing anything resonance type of process, then why its name is optical resonator? Why we do not stick with the name amplifier? Because it is actually doing the amplification of the light. So why we don't call it to be optical amplifier all the times? Why we sometimes call it to be optical amplifier and sometimes we call it to be optical resonator? So that is a very interesting question. And to explain that, I would just tell you that there another process of actually resonance that finitely takes place. That is why its name has been written as optical resonator. In fact, actually there are modes of the resonator. I will not go into much detail of that because that requires rigorous wave optics calculations. I will just try to tell you in an intuitive or introductory manner, and hope you will be satisfied with that conceptual approach or qualitative approach that I will stick to. And for further or deep explanation of that concept of resonance, I will again advise you to refer to some good books, and William T. Silvast and Ajoy K. Khattak. Both of these two books are my favorite, so you can refer to them also. But at present, instead of time, I will not be going to that. Okay, so what is optical resonator? Now you can see the I have shown you that the two photons will travel in the same direction. Now if the two photons travel in the same direction and the size of a photon we know that it is 0, therefore the width of the beam must be width of the beam of the photons which will come out of the laser must be 0, because all photons will travel in the same direction and photon has no size. But I have shown you the beam size to be increasing in width. It does not seems to be digestible at this present instant. So therefore, why I have shown it like this is something which is very important to understand. Actually, what happens that we must have, it is very important for us that between the two mirrors, it is much important for us that between the two mirrors a stationary wave pattern must be formed. Why? I will not tell, or I will not go into that detail. I have already told you the limitation under which I am delivering this lecture. So therefore, kindly remember, it is necessary to have a stationary or standing. Stationary waves are also called standing waves, or a standing wave pattern to be formed between the two mirrors. So the standing wave pattern can be formed. Kindly remember, this is rigid. This surface is also rigid. So some photons are traveling in this direction parallel to principal axis, and some photons which are traveling parallel to principal axis may be in this direction also. Both of these photons are due to transition from similar energy states, but these came from different active centers. Therefore, they have equal wavelength, equal velocity, and equal frequency. However, their direction is opposite, and the endpoints of both of the mirrors are rigid, and therefore within them a stationary wave pattern can be formed due to superposition. And when it will happen, what is going to happen? This optical cavity will start getting filled with energy, and that energy will accumulate in this optical cavity widthwise, means like this, and that widthwise will result actually in the finite size of the beam, which will be responsible for sharp and finite size laser beam. So therefore, kindly remember that the formation of stationary wave pattern in the optical resonator is very, very important. So how this stationary wave can be formed? So we have studied it in our lower classes in the schools that whenever a stationary wave is formed, then at every rigid end we must have a node. Since both ends of the optical resonator are rigid, so therefore we must have a node here. So let us say the distance between two mirrors of the optical resonator is L. So what will be very important to understand that if you want to make a standing wave pattern between two points which are rigid and the distance between them is L, then such standing wave patterns which can happen are like this. The smallest pattern that can be, it is like this. Sorry, I drawn it wrong. So this is the first end, this is the second end. So the smallest pattern of the stationary wave that can be formed within the two mirrors is with this one. So now look, within the length L, that the wave which has been formed, since only one loop is formed, so I assume that all the students who are attending this lecture, they have sufficient knowledge of waves of their secondary school classes. So they must be knowing that if one loop is formed, then therefore it means it is a half wave, therefore this distance will be lambda by 2. Another stationary wave which can be formed, kindly remember,
that these endpoints can be nodes only. So please remember, this is a node where the intensity or where the amplitude of the stationary wave is 0 is called node, and the point where amplitude of the stationary wave is maximum is called antinode. So this is the amplitude, this is actually twice the amplitude. Okay, the next stationary wave which can be formed could be this one. The next which we can form could be this one. So kindly remember, every time, since the mirrors are fixed, so distance between mirrors cannot change. So either you can have a stationary wave pattern which is formed and it will have lambda by 2 equal to L, or the wavelength can be in such a way, this will be lambda by 2, this will be lambda by 2. So therefore the wavelength becomes half. So it will be one full length equal to L. It will be lambda by 2, lambda by 2, lambda by 2. It will be 3 lambda by 2 is equal to L. In general, we can have the distance between two mirrors equal to L as always equal to integral multiple of half of the wavelength, or you can say the wavelength of the stationary wave which can be formed within these two mirrors is given by 2L by N. Now 2L by N, of course, this is okay. So kindly remember therefore that wavelength is proportional to L. So this is the stationary wave, or you can say favorable wavelength which can be formed within the two mirrors of an optical resonator. Now whatever story I have just told you so far in this lecture, I would again go to that. Now suppose we have a very disturbing situation in front of us. Let me take that example. I would erase this. I would again redraw it, but the diagram now will be very simple to just save the time. Okay, so let us say our material has, let us say, this is G level, this is E level. Sometimes we do not have control over the energy states. Let us say this is M1 level, this is M2 level. The pump takes the atoms from G to E, and by chance let us say there are two metastable states, and the de-excitation from E to M1 as well as M2 both is allowed. Now what is going to happen when de-excitation from, these are both non-radiative transitions, and lasing action can start from M1 to G as well as from M2 to G. Suppose a seed photon is emitted parallel to principal axis due to this transition, and a seed photon is emitted parallel to principal axis due to this transition. Therefore its energy will be h nu 1, its energy will be h nu 2. So these two photons will be of different energy. Since both of these are produced by chance parallel to principal axis, so whatever explanation I have given to you, according to that explanation, no one can stop both of the one of the photons out of these two from multiplying, since both of these photons are satisfying the condition of being parallel to principal axis, and therefore even this will multiply, even this will multiply. Therefore when the light will come out of the partially reflecting mirror, the light will be parallel to principal axis. However, the frequency of the light will not be unique. It will contain two frequencies. H nu 1 will be the energy, or nu 1 will be the frequency due to M1 to G transition, and nu 2 will be the frequency due to M2 to G transition. And as a result, the light that will come out of the mirror will be actually not monochromatic, since a laser, according to definition, produces directional, monochromatic and coherent light. Therefore, because of such a very tedious situation, the output frequency of the laser light will not be monochromatic. In order to get rid of this, what we can do, so this frequency we cannot change. This frequency we also cannot change, because this frequency is a function of the energies of M1 and G, which is various of course. This frequency is also a function of the energies of M2 and G, which is also fixed. We cannot change this energy. So these two are the photons of two different energies, and corresponding to nu one, the wavelength will be lambda 1, which will be equal to C upon nu 1. Corresponding to nu 2, the wavelength of the emitted light will be lambda 2, which will be equal to C upon nu 2. So these two wavelengths, if these two frequencies are fixed, these two wavelengths are also fixed. Both of these photons of wavelength lambda 1 and lambda 2 are parallel to principal axis, and according to the explanation given so far, so both of these wavelengths will amplify, but I do not want that. I want just one of the wavelengths to be amplified. Let's just say I am happy with, let us say, this wavelength lambda 1. I want that this wavelength should amplify and this wavelength should not amplify, so that the output is monochromatic. So how can we do that? I can very simply say that this lambda 1, since it is fixed, however this lambda, which is the resonance wavelength of stationary wave to be formed, it is a function of L. So I can change L. If I increase L, since lambda is proportional to L, if I increase L, then lambda will increase. If I decrease L, then lambda will decrease. So by changing the L, that is the distance between the two mirrors in the optical resonator, I can make that, since I am happy with this wavelength to amplified, I can make that this lambda 1 and this lambda both become equal for n is equal to 1. Kindly remember, n is equal to 1 is the fundamental mode, which is the most energetic mode, and which is the most easily obtainable mode within the stationary wave. You are unfamiliar of this, so I will not go beyond that. N is equal to 1 is the fundamental mode of the stationary wave. So if you can do that, then so that lambda of the stationary wave pattern and the lambda of the emitted photon become equal for a certain wavelength, let us say lambda 1, then what is going to happen, that this photon will produce a stationary wave pattern within the optical cavity. However, this photon will not be able to form, this photon will not be able to form stationary wave, because lambda will, its stationary wave pattern cannot be like this. Actually it would be something like this. Like this, because lambda 1 is equal to actually 2L upon n for a given value of n, and lambda 2 is not equal to 2L upon n. Therefore, one of the endpoint will be a node, but other point will not be a node for lambda 2. So therefore stationary wave pattern formation is not possible for lambda 2. As a result, you will not get amplification of the light, because energy of these photons will not be accumulated. These photons will not get accumulated energy within the cavity of the optical resonator, and whole of the energy of these photons will be wasted in the form of heat, and that will raise the temperature of the material, and these photons will come out because the stationary wave pattern has been formed. So therefore, in case of optical resonator, the third role that is played by the optical resonator, which does not seem to be appearing, which is actually the most important role, it is the selection of the wavelength, selection of output wavelength or frequency by choosing the appropriate length of the optical cavity or the distance between two mirrors. So we will adjust the value of L so that the resonance will take place, and that resonance will produce stationary wave of desired wavelength, and only that wavelength will get amplified. All other undesired wavelengths will not get amplified, they will waste. Of course, the energy due to all other wavelengths will be wasted in the form of heat, but our objective of producing monochromatic light will be fulfilled in that fashion. So this is how the optical resonator works. I will give you the summary. The optical resonator has three roles to play. Number one, it decides the direction of the output light, that is parallel to principal axis. Number two, it amplifies the light, and number three, which is very important, it selects the wavelength or frequency of the output light if there is any need of such a situation. So please remember this. Now last thing that I would like to discuss with you, that the appropriate name of, in certain books it is written, you will find this actually question in many important textbooks of engineering, that the actual name of the laser should not be like this. Actual name of the laser should be, rather, instead of laser it should be loser. Explain why. So the answer is actually we can give the answer in two ways. First one is very simple way, because the full form of laser we know that it is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. L stands for light amplification, stimulated emission, radiation. Now if you have just understood the working of the optical resonator, you will agree with me that the amplification of the light, it is because of the oscillation of the light. If I remove one of the mirrors in the optical cavity, then the oscillation of the light back and forth between the two mirrors will not be possible. And if the photons are not oscillating, because every time they oscillated, whenever the photons after reflecting from one of the mirror is re-entering in the medium, then the further amplification takes place. So the amplification is not actually the primary process that is taking place in the laser. Actually the primary process taking place in the laser is the oscillation. Actually amplification is due to oscillation. So therefore the proper name of the device instead of laser should have been loser. However, it is just a academic question right now, so we are not going to change of the device to loser in nowadays. We will stick to that terminology. It's just an academic question which you can deal with. This was the simple answer. Next is the difficult answer. What is the difficult answer? We remember that there are two devices in electronics which are very important for transistors. One of the device is called amplifier and other device is called oscillator. So if you go into the, again I will not touch the detail of this part because it is related with the electronics. If there is any time I will discuss in detail the electronics lectures on the channel also, but it is not the proper time to go into the detail of such things. Just remember that in case of amplifier there is always a negative feedback. What is feedback? Feedback is actually, it is a process in which, let us say these are the input terminals, let us say these are the output terminals, these are the input terminals. Feedback is a process in which some portion of the output signal is transferred back to the input through a circuit. That circuit is called a feedback circuit, and the gain is usually of the feedback circuit is usually written by the symbol beta. So the overall gain of the device is written by symbol A. Feedback gain is represented usually by beta. If some part of the output is given to the input, then such a process is called feedback. And there are two ways of giving feedback from output to input. One is that you take the signal and deliver it as such to the input, and another is you take the output signal, you then reverse its phase, means crest becomes trough and trough becomes crest, and this give it back. Now this kind of feedback is called positive feedback, in which we do not reverse the phase, and this kind of feedback is called negative feedback, in which we reverse the phase. So because of the noise problem related with the transistors, in order to remove the noise, we always use amplifier with negative feedback. And negative feedback, what does it do? Negative feedback always decreases amplitude. Why? Because a phase change has been there, and let us say this is the amplitude here, and this is the amplitude. This was crest. Okay, in front of crest we will place trough, and in place of trough, and in place of trough we place crest, and since these are a 180 degree out of phase, so their resultant will be a wave of smaller amplitude. So the amplitude will decrease due to negative feedback. And in case of oscillator, there is always a positive feedback. So now, and in case of positive feedback, what is the how do we identify that feedback is positive? Because we do not introduce any phase change. So therefore, if I place a big signal and if I place a feedback signal, both are in phase. So crest in front of crest and trough in front of trough, and when such two signals will superimpose, the resultant wave will be of higher amplitude. So positive feedback always results in higher amplitude, or the amplitude increases in positive feedback and amplitude always decreases in negative feedback. In case of amplifier, what we do, in order to reduce the noise, we always keep the feedback to be slightly negative. Overall there is amplification, but whenever feedback is given, after feedback there is always a decrease in amplitude. And in case of oscillator, there is always a positive feedback. And what we have seen just right now, the reflected photon, it is a feedback, because out of the 100 photons that strike on the partially reflecting mirror, the 99 come out, that is the output, and the 100th or the last photon is taken back into the medium, that is a feedback photon. And when it enters into the back medium, it again starts multiplying. So therefore there is a positive feedback. The photon is multiplying, or it is amplifying the process whenever a feedback photon re-enters in the medium. So therefore it is a positive feedback. So according to that terminology also, that is rather than an amplifier, that optical resonator, instead of more of an amplifier, it is more of an oscillator. So therefore in this alphabet A should be actually replaced by O. Now these are the two answers. One was the short and the simple answer, conceptual or qualitative answer, and the second one is the exhaustive or comprehensive answer. Whatever appeals to you, you can give the answer. But remember that this is just an academic question, so we are not going to change the name of this device right now at this instant of time. So in the literature, in the books, the name is still laser. So this was all about today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will discuss the first laser in the class, that will be ruby laser, and then I will discuss with you helium neon laser, then CO2 laser, and after that, in the last, I will discuss with you semiconductor laser. So every laser will require 1 hour of teaching. So hopefully in the next 4 lectures I will finish this part of the laser and start the new chapter. Thank you. Thanks a lot.